Not everything in this world is based on opinions. Some things are based on facts. Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with what I guess is a controversial subject for some, even though it really shouldn't be. Movie release dates. They are what they are, right? Apparently, some people would disagree with that statement. When I date my movie reviews, I've always used IMDb as a reference. Standard, across the board. And barring basic human error, it is the most accurate reference. I was inspired to film this video after having a conversation with a few different people on the topic. The discussion originated from TheHORROman. According to IMDb, TheHORROman is a 2020 film. It was released in Brazil on September 10th, 2020. The movie was then screened in 7 other countries that year. Finally, on January 22nd, 2021, TheHORROman was released in the United States, as well as Canada and Italy. But we don't determine a movie's release date based on when it's released in the United States, do we? Honestly, that would seem a bit ignorant on our part. Just because we can't watch a movie yet doesn't mean it wasn't already released for someone else to see. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the crew and the cast, because they get some pre-screenings. But when a movie is screened at a film festival or for a wider audience in a different country, that's a release. And typically, that's how a release date is determined. Those of us in the US may not have been able to see TheHORROman until 2021, but others in the world were able to see it in 2020. I apologize to those who disagree, and I mean no disrespect, but this is not subjective. TheHORROman is a 2020 film. Like I said, not everything in this world is based on opinions. Some things are based on facts. A release date is a fact. Let's compare a movie's release date to someone's birthday, because that's basically what movie release dates are, right? The birthdays of the movies. When a baby is born, typically only a small group of people actually get to see the baby and hold the baby that day. The baby is not usually brought into the general public immediately. Not everyone gets to see the baby yet, but it doesn't change the baby's birth date. And other people don't get to decide when that birthday is. It's not subjective. It's a date. It's a fact. Let's move on to another example, Mahakal. According to IMDb, Mahakal is a 1994 horror film. But guess what? Up until this year, 2021, when Massacre Video finally released the movie on Blu-ray in the US, Mahakal was only released in India. Guess what year? 1994. Does the fact that it was only released in India change the release date? No. Mahakal is a 1994 movie. And yes, this is despite the fact that it was not released in the US until 2021. Garden Tool Massacre was never released on any form of physical media until 2020. Yet this is a 1997 film. That's when the movie was initially completed and screened for a small audience. But despite the limited audience, it's still screened. Therefore, Garden Tool Massacre is a 1997 film. Just because you don't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, there will always be an oddball in every situation. In this case, Screwdriver. This movie has a 2020 release date. That's because, despite being filmed years before, it never had an official screening of any kind. The only people able to see any cut of the film back then was the cast and crew. Let's continue with a popular Wild Eye title, Carousel. This is actually a 2016 movie, but Wild Eye did not release it on DVD until 2019. Honestly, did anyone know about the movie until Wild Eye released it? It was first screened on April 26, 2016 at Indie Sensations, and it was then released in select theaters nationwide on October 6, 2016. You and I may not have been at any of these screenings, but it doesn't mean they didn't happen. Let's move on to an infamous VHS in my collection of a slasher film that was at one time considered one of the rarest slashers of all time. Savage Water is a 1979 slasher film, yet it was never officially released in the US. Till this day, no official release. Not on VHS, not on Laserdisc, no DVD, no Blu-ray. This here is an overseas VHS release, and it's extremely rare. Vinegar Syndrome did attempt to release Savage Water on this drive-in collection DVD in 2013, as you can see here. However, before it could hit shelves, this release was canceled. I fortunately was able to track down a pre-distribution copy. But even if this DVD made it to distribution, that wouldn't change the release date of Savage Water to 2013. It's still a 1979 slasher film. This movie is nearly impossible to obtain, and most people don't even know about it. But that doesn't change its release date. Here's a favorite of mine, and another great example for this topic. Scary Movie. This is the 1991 film. This movie received its first official mass release in 2019 on this Blu-ray and DVD combo pack from AGFA. Prior to that, this too was almost impossible to obtain. And like Savage Water, a lot of people didn't even know it existed. But a VHS release was manufactured for Scary Movie back in 1992, after the film had been screened at 2 different festivals in 1991. It premiered at World Fest Houston in April 1991, and it was then screened again on October 18th, 91 in an Austin Film Festival. This VHS, one of the rarest in my collection, was handed out locally. If you didn't live in that area of Texas at the time, then you couldn't get one of these tapes. Guess what though? Despite only 2 film festival screenings and an extremely limited run of VHS tapes the following year, Scary Movie is still considered a 1991 film. Speaking of extremely rare VHS tapes, here's another movie from 1991, Something of Mine. Something of Mine, like Scary Movie, was only screened in a limited area of Texas. And then, this tape, like Scary Movie, was basically distributed by hand. Once again, only to those who lived in the area. Unlike Scary Movie though, this has never been re-released since. Something of Mine was only introduced to a very small audience in 1991, but that doesn't change the fact that Something of Mine is a 1991 film. And I thought I'd close out this video with one of the most famous horror films to have an intriguing release date story, The Evil Dead. According to IMDb, The Evil Dead has a 1981 release date. It was screened in Detroit, Michigan on October 15th, 1981. It then wasn't screened again until the Cannes Film Festival on May 16th, 1982. The rest of that year, it screened in multiple countries throughout the world. The Evil Dead did not, however, return to the US until February of 1983, when it screened in New York City. It then screened again in April of '83 at the Filmex Festival. The Evil Dead did not receive a nationwide US release until April 15th, 1983. But its release date is still 1981. Do the people living in Detroit who got to see the screening at that time not count? Do movies only exist when everyone has the opportunity to see them? The answer is no. Movie release dates are not subjective. They are what they are. I probably got a little long-winded in this video, but I thought it was an interesting topic to discuss. I think it's the way some people try to use opinions as excuses. It's sort of a pet peeve for me. Saying something is your opinion does not necessarily mean you're not wrong. And that's because everything in this world is not based on opinions. Some things are based on facts. I'd love to know your thoughts, respectfully of course. Comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind, subscribe.